Welcome to The Next Chapter, a show about how to move your life forward and what comes next. I'm your host, Carrie Pena, co-founder of the Center for Positive Media. Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Pena, and this is the Next Chapter podcast. With me here in studio, Christina Ivanhoe, the founder of Golden Heart Wellness. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. It's a
Coming
blessing.
dressed to the nines, match my furniture. Yes, girl.
Yes, I love it.
So we have so much to talk about that I had to bring my yellow pad with me today because I had a lot of notes. You have an incredible story that is very both traumatic and inspirational. We're going to dig into that in just a second. But first, I want to set the stage about what Golden Heart Wellness is, because this is something that was born out of the trauma that you lived. And you really now try to help people look at what blocks the body from healing. What does that mean?
So what we do is we do an epigenetic hair test. And so it'll test like it'll test all of your aminos, it'll test your vitamins, your antioxidants, everything you could be deficient in. It'll tell you whether you have parasites, whether you have metals. But the other part is it shows up whether you have emotions. And so that's the part where the trauma is. And a lot of times, that's where the block is. Most of the time the block is. And I think because I'm so trained in it that I can spot it, or it's God-given, because I can't explain it other than look at somebody and go, no, it's your trauma. Like what, and sometimes they look at me like I have like 5 heads because they've never heard, they've never even thought about like, well, what was my childhood like? And it's so saddening because really we are like computers. So, it's really our programming, and you have to unprogram yourself when you become an adult of what you've been programmed as a child. And, and I think a lot of people, they disregard their trauma, which rightfully so. It's called traumatic amnesia. And because you don't want to remember it. And so then when you bring that up, they kind of are like, But then I offer to them, I said, listen, I've been through this. I will walk through this with you. And I promise you. And so when they can see hope on my face, that's what I love, is that when they can see the hope on my face for them, then that's when we're able to have some transformation. You are an expert in what's called BioEmotional Healing. Is that what you just described? Well, that's not all BioEmotional Healing. BioEmotional Healing is just a modality that I was trained in. But BioEmotional Healing is it's really where it's the science part, because I did the EMDR, I had done all of this stuff, and I couldn't figure out why I was still not moving, right? Like, why was I still being triggered? But I'm such a sciencey person. And so then once I did the BioEmotional Healing with Ashley DeLillo, I really found out this. I saw the science of it, and so it's really just retraining the neural pathways, and you really have that much power. Like, people don't understand, like, what you say is so important to yourself. Like, even if you're like, oh, I'm an idiot, don't say that, because it's so hurtful to you. You may think it's just simple, but it's really hurting your body, because your body listens. And so you really have to be mindful. So I always tell, one of the things I always say is, the first 5 things you should say before your feet hit the ground, 5 things that you want to happen. And this is part of BioEmotional Healing. And so that is, like, I don't care if you say you want a purple unicorn, but what happens is your brain doesn't know the difference. So then that takes you out of fight or flight. And that gives you have that same emotional connection and feeling as if it were actually happening. So then you take yourself out of fight or flight first thing in the morning. And so that's one of the easy ones.
You have a tremendous amount of success on this journey. You've helped Olympians, you've helped high-powered CEOs, and also just regular folks who come in who are just looking. Sometimes I imagine they come in thinking they're going to do a hair test, and you start taking them down this deeper road, and they're like, girl, I wasn't necessarily prepared for all this.
That is exactly what happens. Not all the time, not to scare everybody, but it unlocks you, right? So that's what I want for people, is to be unlocked. Like, I don't, I had one woman that she'd freak out when she was talking about how there was messes around her, and she freaked out. And I said, well, how did you grow up? And she said her mom was a hoarder. And I said, oh, honey, I said, that is why. I said, that makes sense, because you didn't feel safe. So we're triggered because our body holds all of the trauma, and we don't even realize it.
Body keeps the score.
Sure does. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your childhood.
Okay.
You were raised by a mother who was an addict.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially you raised yourself, you said, since about 11 years old?
I learned how to drive when I was 11.
Wow.
My mom, my parents got divorced when I was 4, and my mom told me my dad didn't want me and was leaving me for another family. And at that point, I learned my worth, right? That my father could even leave. And then my mom lost it. And, she turned to drugs and alcohol. And I really did she was absent, right? But really I think when I was in 3rd grade was the first time she left for like a month at a time.
A month at a time?
I'm grateful that I grew up in Indiana, right? Like the houses were close. Everybody knew everybody. But I will say, I went to bed praying that I woke up the next morning.
Were you there taking care of yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember it would be like 8:00. I would look at the clock to see if she was coming home. And I always knew between 8 and 8:30 at night, if she didn't get home about 8:15, I had to run in the alley and go to a woman's house that I knew her and that she'd let me stay the night there.
When you talk about this today, I mean, that's just shocking. It was your reality.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the feelings of abandonment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You must have stayed with you for years when you talk about that kind of trauma. Mm-hmm. Can you describe what that felt like and as you progressed in age? I
have to say, I always felt less than, right? I always felt like I didn't matter. Because if the people that love me were supposed to take care of me, then why would anybody else want me? What made me worthy? And so until even to this day, it's a daily conversation. I have to read my Jesus Calling. I have to read my, language. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere, but I armor myself because I have to, because I don't wish that on anybody, because that doesn't go away. Even holidays, you're still wondering, but it's, as a little girl, it was very lonely, and it was very, I was ashamed. I was very, it was bad. And then I had a half brother that would do drugs, and I would pray that he wouldn't come home and beat me up. Sometimes he would, sometimes he'd show up or he wouldn't, but it's, the abandonment piece is really, I don't wish it on anybody, because I think that it's one of the strongest strongholds that can have on a soul.
What ended up happening with your mom? What was your relationship like over the years?
She was mentally ill from, the drinking. And, it wasn't, she would leave it wasn't good. I remember to this day, I hate cooking. I shouldn't say I hate cooking. I'm trying. We're trying. We're working on it. I have many gifts. But she yelled at me for burning bacon. And I was just I was trying, it was after that, it was a very, but my grandma was mean to my mom. And so I was able to see that piece, right? It doesn't just stem from anywhere, because I don't think anybody wants to be a bad mom.
Generational trauma.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And so, it's a daily thing on the abandonment.
You did an Instagram live on your way before you came here, and I found it really interesting because your faith is a big part of your journey. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you did an Instagram live that you had gone to Impact Church here in the Valley, and you visited Pastor Todd because you wanted him to pray over you as you thought about this conversation. Why did you want to have that prayer? What were you going through in thinking about this?
He's a big mentor to me, and him and his wife, but I want God to speak through me. I don't ever want to misspeak, right? For me, if I can help somebody from my pain or from what I've gone through, then that's all I care about. This is not me. This is all God. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the mail.
It was ironic that you mentioned Pastor Todd, because I actually visit Impact Church, and I like to go and watch a lot of different churches online just to see different pastors. And I happened to catch Impact this past Sunday, and I texted my friend Megan, and I said, "Who's this pastor? He's amazing." I had never met him. I don't think I'd ever seen him, but I thought he was so dynamic. Yeah. And I loved his message. And then you wrote that today, and I was like, wow, that's all lining up.
Yeah.
When did you start Did you have a moment where you hit rock bottom that you spiraled out of control?
There's been many, but I think one of the main times was when I was 16 and my mom left. She moved to Arizona, and I had to move in with my boyfriend at the time. And she basically changed the locks and had all my stuff boxed and told me to get out. And I wasn't a bad kid. Like it was just, she was just mentally ill and an addict. I think at that point I really spiraled out, and but I never lost my faith. But it was a hard one. And I remember I would hurry up and try and babysit and make money so that I could go to Michigan City back there to the Guess outlet so that I could look the part, so that CPS wouldn't come and take me. Like I needed to make sure that I was, put together so that nobody really knew what was going on at home. And but that was one of the times. And then I think the second time is when I got married. And the reason why when you get married is I think that when you marry someone, right, you're used to the people, like my parents, the people that love me were supposed to take care of me, and they didn't. And so now I'm marrying somebody that is supposed to love me and take care of me. And I got super depressed. I got super acting weird, like, ugh, and I just put myself in therapy. And that was when I first started to really do the hard work. Mm-hmm. And I remember years ago, I had a clothing line, and it was at the Phoenicia. I always give, I go and give back wherever they do business with me. And it was at the Phoenician. And I took the acupressure appointment, and she looked at me. She didn't know me. And she said, "I'd like to open your heart to forgiving your mom." And at that time I was like, no way. You don't know me. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I've been through. But then I also know God has a reason, right? So I got on the table and grumbling, right? And she said, your parents had you, but then God took you. You're God's child. And honestly, at that time was when I knew, okay, I can do this. I've got a purpose. God's doing something, and they may have brought me here, but okay. And that was when I really started to do the hard work.
Talk about the next steps in that work, because I think this is really important for people who might hear you or see you and think, whether it's faith-based or just they're ready to get some of that trauma out. Because when we hold the trauma in, it's such a heavy burden for us as human beings. So talk about the steps when you say do the hard work. What did you start to do?
I went and did EMDR. I've done many interesting things because, when you want to heal, you'll just do whatever.
You're seeking.
You are sinking, exactly. And so I did a surrender treatment once, and I remember this was in the Montage in Park City, and I had a vision of my mom coming to me and saying that, I didn't mean to be a bad mom. And so there's little pieces, you just start doing the work, and you just start looking and searching. And I did some holographic trauma experiences where he made me fire my parents and parent them, put colors around them. But I did a lot of EMDR, and that's eye movement desensitization. And that really was the game changer for me. And I really put myself into therapy like almost every week because for a while, I just knew that I had no support, and I needed somebody that I trusted to be able to support me. And I just knew. And so that was part of it. And then, I read Louise Hay's. She was the first self-help book I've ever read. And I read all of her books. And so, you look at that woman, she can heal her life, right? Like so many things. And then you just start digging more to do more work.
Did you have to, in a sense, mourn the loss of your childhood because you really, you weren't given an opportunity to be a little kid?
No, you know what? That's a good question. I think I still mourn, right? Because I know that I'm a way better than mom than my mom was, right? But on holidays, it's still, I've created such an amazing group around us of friends that they're like family to us. And so Hannah has, my daughter has a great group around her, and she knows that she can call anyone. But I think I still mourn, actually, because I don't think it's anything that goes away. But if you can know that there's, I can talk to you now without a lump in my throat because I've done the work, without actually crying, because you have to get it out. right? But I think that was a good question. I think I still mourn.
You do believe that it is possible to rewire the brain?
100%. 100%. Because there were times that when I would be somewhere and the part is it's the triggers that get you, and people don't understand it. And we don't, the triggers are our alarms, right? Going off. So I would be somewhere where everybody had a bunch of family around them, honestly, and that would be my trigger. And I would start to feel less than. It wouldn't be anything like any other stuff. It was just really like the family stuff. It would trigger me. And so that I think is, you just have to really know that you can. You just have to, sometimes you have to, well, you have to work through it. So if that's that you start with a letter, like a lot of my clients, I'll have them start with a letter. Let's write a letter to it. Write a letter to your mom or whoever it is, and we'll burn it. And so then we burn it. And then at least you're getting some of it out.
Because do you think writing it down is acknowledging the truth of what has happened?
100%. Mm-hmm. And you can see it, mm-hmm. right? And so, and when, a lot of times, when your therapist or somebody looks at you, they're like, you cannot make this stuff up, with their eyes wide open. You're like, oh, I think it's a little larger than I thought it was. And I think like what you're saying is that sometimes we normalize things. Oh, it was fine. I can do it. I can tough it out. But then these people have so much inflammation, and they're, I just had one client, and she kept trying it, and she's like, no. I'm like, no, try again. It's the trauma, honey. It's trauma, and it's okay. We'll get through it. But it's because they really do want, who doesn't, right? Like I remember when I had the same person that told me that that I was God's child. She told me, that I needed to learn to love myself. And this is actually when I was still living in Wingate, and I vividly remember I was driving by the park right there, and she said, you need to learn to love yourself. And this is going to sound weird, but I would have rather have been stabbed in the eye because I didn't know what that was. I'm like, that sounds horrible, mm-hmm. which is so sad. Like, why would you not want to love yourself? But that's where I was at.
Was it a depression that you were in?
That's another good question. I don't really, I don't know, because I might have had an underlying depression, but I never, I can't say it because I'm not everybody else that perceived me, but I didn't present it. I have to say, and when I talk about my faith, there's something for everybody, right? And not everybody has to it's God for them. It could be their higher power, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. But for me, I really just had I was always in prayer, always asking God, like, please just, help me. And I've had that since I was little. So I do know that God has anointed me somehow because he's kept me who I am. And, but I do think there was probably underlying depression.
Do you think it's fair, though, to say, even someone who's as faith-filled as you can believe, mm-hmm. but still you have to do the work.
100%.
Because you are the only one who can save yourself.
Yeah. I can pray all I want, but if I'm not going to do the work, it doesn't matter. So it's, no, you have to do the work. And it's okay. A lot of times, you just walk alongside people, right? You just need, for me, and that's one of the big things is I want to create community because we also get a lot of people in our office that are lonely. And I think when we get older and you don't have kids anymore, you're not going to go to a bar and meet friends, right? You just lose touch of and I don't want people to feel lonely. I want them to find joy in other people. And I think people bring other people joy.
So what is your next chapter?
Well, the next chapter really is to continue, building our business and really helping people be their best selves and, and finding the hindrances and so that we can make them really optimize. Because if you can get the body, mind, and soul together, it's like my husband and I were talking about this. It's almost like a race car, right? And so if you have one thing that's off, none of it runs. Mm. So you have to really, you can be healthy, but you have to be healthy in your heart. And that's the harder part. Like the food and all that other stuff is easy. The supplement, whatever, that's all easy. But this part is a little harder. And so, I just want to help people to get to be who they are and their best selves.
And, when you run these tests, that look at all these different modalities, and you're picking up the deficiencies, and you're detecting sometimes food allergies, parasites, heavy metals. You're looking at the hormones. You deal with the adrenals. You know, we talked about the BioEmotional Healing. For some people, though, I imagine it's scary because this is sort of the truth about what's going on.
Yeah. And it's a lot. So what I love is that Nicole and I they do not leave without a plan, because it's 32 pages. I mean, we're telling them literally what you just said, Paris, all of it. And it's all easy. We just take one off at a time, right? So they leave with links. They leave, it's dummy proofed. Like, you don't have to write on the test, so they know exactly what it is. Nicole is sending them the links, everything they need. And so their notes. And so it's like a to-do list for the next 90 days.
The parasite thing, I think, would freak me out. If you did the hair testing on me and you said you have parasites, I don't even know what I would do.
Well, I would just put you on a cleanse.
Okay.
And it's a gentle cleanse. It's not, so that's the other part. And I've had people, but here's the good thing is like, I had one client that she didn't have her period for like a year, and she'd been told a year prior that she had parasites, and she literally was sending me pictures because we did her hair test, took picture, and she had the parasite, and she was sending us pictures for like a month. But she said now she's got her period, everything's stable, and she feels great.
The gut is the root of a lot of people's health problems, right?
Yes, and that's the unfortunate part. It's the stress. So, good stress, bad stress, it's all the same. Like, your body still feels like the bear's chasing it. And so that's the part, like, they don't, some people are like, well, I don't have any stress at work. I'm just busy. You are, but, and you're, a lot of these high power execs, it's hard, but you have to remind them, like, good stress, bad stress, it's all the same.
And when you're busy and your mind is busy all the time, that's what I have to protect myself from, because I'm thinking all the time.
Yes.
And I really try to practice a lot of mindfulness and try to clear everything out, so I'm not constantly running through my to-do list and all of these things.
It's easier said than done, right?
What do you think that people can learn from your story? I mean, you just sat here and told us, and you're so composed, and you're a really lovely person, and you do so much, you and your husband, in the community, so much charity work and giving back. But you just sat here and said a real shocking story that essentially you were learning to drive at age 11. Your mom left you for months at a time. You were trying to cover all this up so CPS would not come and take you away. That is a heavy burden to walk through life with. What do you want people to learn from your story?
I think, I'm going to try not to cry now, like you almost did it. I think that I really want them to know and to learn that you can do it. Like, anybody can do it. Well, I should say anybody can do it, but you can do it with support. You can do it with, hope. I mean, you can reach out to us. I mean, it just, life is too precious. And sometimes we cannot let what happened to us as a child define who we are now, because then we're still living in it. And so if you can really try your best, even if you just, they write a letter to whoever it is. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do, but you're getting it out. That's what I tell my teen clients. I'm like, just write it out. And a lot of them, it's their parents that we cause them anxiety. But I'm like, just write it out. And so then, it's out of the body. So if it's out of the body, then you're not storing it. And you just keep chipping away. And I think that once you can, like, kind of like you saying to me, like, that was a big burden, it kind of opened my eyes, like, wow, she's right. Because you kind of normalize it still, right? And so these people, if you can just get it out of the body, that's it. And then start there.
Because it really does make me sad to see how many people walk through life with that trauma bottled, because life is beautiful. And I've done so much reporting on the news where I've had the honor of interviewing people who were end of life. And then they talk about wanting more time, regrets. And you hear those things and it's like, man, every day really is a gift. It's true.
Yeah.
Those words are so true. But it's hard to sometimes feel that when you've walked through so many hard things.
Yeah. And you I think too, you look at everybody else, and I think comparison is the worst thing you could do. Really. And for me, like, I just pray for God to get in my head before I do. Because if he's in there, or then I'm okay. Maybe the chatter will shut up. And I work out because that will shut the people off too. They stop talking.
Well, you're amazing. And I
Thank
want to
you.
share with the audience, whether they're here, our studio's located in Phoenix, but people can reach out to you from wherever, I assume.
Yeah.
And how do people find you?
At Golden Heart Wellness. We're on Instagram, and then goldenheartwellness.com. But we do the testing throughout the whole United States. And so it's awesome.
All right, I'm going to be in there.
Okay.
Just hopefully I don't have parasites.
Well, if you don't jinx yourself.
Okay, but knock on wood, knock on wood. Okay, I'm going to think positively. Okay, you scared me now, Christina.
No, you don't be scared.
Congratulations on everything that
thank
you've been
you.
able to accomplish.
Thanks.
And that you've been able to give back. That's really something that you've used your trauma and somehow been able to shift that for the greater good. So that is something really to be proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for watching and for listening. This is the Next Chapter podcast. I'm Carrie Pena.